What is your picture of the future in respect of Australian food producers and the Chinese market?
That's a big question, Mike. You got several questions in this big question. First, in terms of consumer power, I'm not sure whether the Chinese consumers got the power. Probably that's a question you are not interested in. But on the other hand, the Chinese consumers' appetite is on the increase, and they are demanding for more food, for more higher valued food, and for more quality food. And when we say higher valued food, mainly those foods of animal origin, and the demand in recent years has been on the increase. Chinese consumers, basically, they demand for all kinds of meats, and pork is by far the major meat consumed in China. Chinese people are also increasingly consuming more beef and lamb, which we are good at producing about. But the increase is not very fast, and also the per capita consumption at the moment is very low. It's about several kilograms per capita, and it will be increasing, but we probably won't expect the increase will be too fast.
We hear and we see pictures on television of amazing growth in China occurring. We see buildings, hotels being built in 2 weeks out near Shanghai, and incredible surge in middle class, what we're told is middle class buying power as your nation's economy changes. How does that account for your analysis then that there will only be slow growth in demand for Australian food products?
Mark, I think that here we've got two separate issues. One is about China's increasing demand for beef and lamb. The other issue is China's demand for Australian beef and lamb. And China's demand for beef and lamb doesn't necessarily automatically translate it into the purchase from Australia. Certainly, Australia has its advantages in the reputation of meat products Australia sells, and Chinese people love Australia beef and lamb. But on the other hand, Australia is not the only country that sells beef and lamb, although probably in terms of lamb we are in a better position, but in terms of beef there are also other producers. What I'm saying here is that Australia has to compete with other potential exporters in the Chinese market. And on the other hand, we also need to realize that given that the quality of meat we export is very good, but on the other hand, the price is also good for the Chinese. Surely for some very wealthy Chinese customers, that may be not a major issue. But for majority of the Chinese consumers, that would be probably too expensive. Surely we might say that, well, if we catch just a small portion of those rich people, we will do well. That's fine, it's true. Even though we catch a small portion of those wealthy people, we can still sell a lot. But on the other hand, as I said, that there are also other potential exporters to sell meats to China. So we need to compete with others.
Does your work look at the wine industry in any way?
In a small way.
Okay.
And probably, Mark, that what you're asking here is that how we better promote our products, such as our beautiful beef, lamb, and wine in the Chinese market. Personally, I have been thinking that this one area Australia could do better. I have made comments on various occasions about our concerted efforts in producing Australian products in the Chinese market. But quite often we are not doing enough, and also we are not looking forward the way probably we should, and in other words, sometimes probably we are a little bit short-sighted. In terms of wine sales, we produce good wines in Australia, but a lot of Australian wines are not selling at good price in the Chinese market, which is a pity and very sad. Why? Because we don't have a sort of a joint or concerted efforts to promote our wine as a good product in the Chinese market. Instead, there are many middlemen or sellers or traders who try to sell the Australian wine to the Chinese market, and they compete with each other by reducing the price. But when we sell the good products to the Chinese market, particularly when we try to catch a premium price in the market from those wealthy Chinese people, we've got to understand the consumption psyche of those wealthy Chinese consumers. The Chinese market, the Chinese consumer market is not a mature market. Chinese consumers are not mature consumers. They don't consume things like many consumers in those well-developed market economies. And quite often they consume the products based on the perception, and quite often that's the indication they get from price. If something is very expensive, costs you an arm and a leg, they might think that's great. If something is cheap, they think, oh, that must be not very good. If it's good, why not sold at a very high price? And then when we sell our wine cheaply, we damage our own reputation. And this probably will take years for us to remedy in the Chinese market. So why don't we have a joint effort to to promote our wine as a good product and high quality product in the Chinese market, other than selling cheaply?
So Joe, what your advice then to Australian producers is to avoid getting caught in price traps and to build relationships. When you say, why don't we jointly promote our products, we need to find partners in China who can help us by guiding us through the local market. Is that correct?
That's one way to do things.
Yes.
When I say that we need to have joint effort to promote Australia's products, I'm not indicating that all our individual farmers should get together jointly to promote, because that would be too hard for them. What I'm saying here is that we have several industries that have potential to export our food to China. These industry bodies could join together with partnership from state governments or federal government, and then we could have some sort of a promotional campaigns in China. We don't have to promote one single product at one point of time. We could promote Australia as a whole and various Australian products at one point of time in various ways.
All right. So, what do you think? What do you think Australia has to do right now to ensure that its penetration of markets and its relationships with the consumers of China, the middle class consumers of China, is going to be improved in about 10 years' time?
Well, assume that the Chinese consumers' income will continue to grow and grow nicely, and assuming that that country will not be in any trouble politically or socially, then what we need to do is exactly what I've just said. We need to start promote ourselves in the market, not today, but it should be 3 days ago, because that's what I keep saying, that we are always behind. what we can do is that we can keep promoting the image of our high quality products in the Chinese market to probably targeted sections of the population if we don't want to target all of them. We may not be willing to sell the products to the Chinese market yet at this stage because probably our prices are a bit high and the Chinese consumers are not ready, or many of them are not ready to buy our products. But that shouldn't stop us. That shouldn't stop us from promoting our products in the Chinese market. One day, if their income increases, they will buy. And on the other hand, probably might be a useful strategy that we produce the product, but we don't sell the product yet, and let those people who are curious to ask, well, it's good, but then where's it? Let's find it.
Thank you very much.